So guys, we were studying the wrist or the carpus region, and we have said that the wrist or the carpus region consists of the uh, two topics. Number first is the flexure retinaculum, and number second is the extensor retinaculum. So we have studied the flexure retinaculum in the previous video, and in this video we will be studying the extensor retinaculum through the notes and the diagram. So let's recall that the what is retinaculum? Retinaculum is the thickening of the deep fascia, and it is the retinaculum are present in many parts of the body. That is, it is present in the uh, leg, and it is present in the wrist and in other parts of body. But we are studying the retinaculum of the wrist or the carpus, and we know that there are two types of retinaculum present in the wrist or the corpus. The first is the first is the flexure retinaculum, and number second is the extensor retinaculum. So now will be studying the extensor retinaculum. What is extensor retinaculum? The extensor retinaculum is a retinaculum that holds the tendons of the extensor muscles in position at the wrist. We are studying the retinaculum of the wrist and the extensor retinaculum of the wrist or the corpus. So as the name signifies, it will hold the tendons of the extensor muscles in position at the wrist. So the extensor retinaculum stretches across the back of the wrist or the dorsal side of the wrist, unlike the flexure retinaculum. Like the flexure retinaculum, it is also formed by the thickening of the deep fascia of the forearm. We know that the retinaculum is formed by the deep fascia, but here specifically we are studying about the retinaculum of the wrist. So it is formed by the thickening of the deep fascia of the forearm, because the wrist is present at the end of the forearm. Now just let's deep dive in it. The extensor retinaculum forms 6 separate tunnels for the passage of the tendons of the extensor muscles of the forearm. The extensor retinaculum in the dorsal side of the wrist form 6 separate tunnels for the passage of the tendons of the extensor muscles of the forearm. The extensor muscles of the forearm passes from the forearm to the hand through these 6 separate tunnels, which are formed by the extensor retinaculum. These 6 tunnels are separated from one another by the fibrous septa, which is actually the extensor retinaculum that extends from the deep surface of the retinaculum. Now, from the diagram, we can see that this is the extensor retinaculum, which is present on the dorsal or the posterior side of the wrist, and this is the extensor retinaculum, which is the thickening of the deep fascia in the form of band. This is strong bands of the deep fascia of the forearm, which forms the extensor retinaculum. These are the 6 separate tunnels which are formed by the extensor retinaculum. This is the extensor retinaculum. It is the cross-sectional diagram. It is the extensor retinaculum. This green line is actually the extensor retinaculum, as we have as it is labeled from here. This is the extensor retinaculum, and the 6 separate tunnels are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These are the 6 separate tunnels which are formed by the extensor retinaculum, and they are separated from each other by the fibrous bands. These are the fibrous bands. These are the fibrous bands. These are the fibrous bands, which are actually the part of the flexure retinaculum, which separates the tendons from each other. So these are the 6 tunnels: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and these are the fibrous bands that separates these tunnels. Now we will be studying the attachments of the extensor retinaculum. Medially, it is attached to the pisiform and the hook of the hamate bone, because we know that on the medial side of the wrist or the carpus, the pisiform and the uh, hamate bone is present. On the lateral side, it is attached to the distal end of the radius. On the proximal sides, it is attached to the deep fascia of the forearm, and on the lateral side, it is attached to the deep fascia of the hand. So, in diagram, we can see that this is the lateral surface of the wrist or the corpus, and this is the medial surface. And on the lateral surface, the radius bone is present towards the on the side of the thumb. So here it is attached to the radius bone, and on the medial side, the extensor retinaculum is attached to the uh, hamate bone, hook of the hamate bone, and the pisiform bone. Distally, it is attached to the deep fascia of the hand, and proximally, it is attached to the deep fascia of the forearm. So now we will be discussing the contents of the extensor retinaculum, or the contents of the tunnels of the extensor retinaculum. So as we know that there are six tunnels: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and the number of structures present in them are the first tunnel consists of the three structures, the second consists of the two structures, the third consists of the one structure, and the fourth consists of the five structures, the fifth one structure, and the sixth one structure. Now we will be discussing one by one the structures of the each tunnel. So the number first tunnel consists of the three structures, that is the one tendon of the abductor pollicis longus muscle, one tendon of the extensor pollicis brevis muscle, and the one is the radial artery. So these are the three structures. Each tendon of the abductor pollicis longus, that is one tendon, and this is the extensor pollicis brevis is the second tendon. Each tendon have separate synovial sheets. They are enclosed in separate synovial sheets, but they are present in the one tunnel, but having separate synovial sheets. So this is the tunnel number first, and it consists of the three structures. First is the abductor pollicis longus tendon, second is the extensor pollicis brevis tendon, and third is the radial artery, as we have studied. And these are the two tendons, but each tendon is enclosed in its separate synovial sheath. The second tunnel consists of the two structures, that are the one tendon of the extensor carpi radialis longus tendon, and second structure is the tendon of the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle. And there are two tendons present in this tunnel, but they are enclosed in common synovial sheath, unlike the first tunnel. So this is the second tunnel, and it consists of the two structures, that is the tendon of the extensor carpi radialis longus and tendon of the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle, and they are enclosed, both tendons are enclosed in the common synovial sheath. As you can see, this is the second tunnel. The third tunnel consists of the one structure, and that structure is the one tendon of the extensor pollicis longus muscle. The fourth tendon consists of the five structure, that is the it consists of the one tendon of the extensor indicis muscle, and one and four tendons of the extensor digitorum muscle, and the tendons, these five tendons are enclosed in a common synovial sheath. So in diagram we can see that this is the third tunnel and it consists of the one structure that is the tendon of the extensor pollicis longus and is enclosed in a single synovial sheath. And this is the fourth tunnel which consists of the five structures of 1 2 3 4 5, and it consists of the four tendons of the extensor digitorum and one tendon of the extensor indicis, and they are all enclosed in a one common synovial sheath. This is the one common synovial sheath. The fifth tunnel consists of the one structure and that is the single tendon of the extensor digiti minimi. The sixth tunnel consists of the one structure and that is the one tendon of the extensor carpi ulnaris. So the important point here is that the in tunnel number 3, 5 and 6 there are a single tendon present which is enclosed in separate synovial sheath because they are present there are single tendons in each tunnel, so there must be a separate synovial sheath. But in the tunnel number first we can see that there are two tendons but each tendon is enclosed in the separate synovial sheath. But in the tunnel number second and the tunnel number 4 there are multiple tendons present but they are all enclosed in a common synovial sheath. So these are the important points to be remembered. So in diagram you can see that the fifth tunnel and sixth tunnel consist of a single tendon in green. These tendons are in green and both of them are enclosed by a separate synovial sheath. And we can see that in the tunnel number 4th and tunnel number 2nd there are multiple tendons present but they are all enclosed in a common synovial sheath. So up till now we have discussed that the tendons are enclosed in synovial sheaths. So what are the synovial sheaths? The synovial sheaths are actually the coverings surrounding the tendons when they are passing under the ligaments or the retinaculums, as we have seen earlier that whenever we talked about the uh, flexor tendons or the extensor tendons, they are enclosed by the synovial sheath, and synovial sheaths are the covering which are the covering surrounding the tendons, and they are present surrounding the tendons when they are passing under the ligaments and the retinaculum. What are the functions? The function of the synovial sheath is that it decreases the friction between the tendons and the ligaments or the retinaculums under which they are present. And the tendons are surrounded by the synovial sheath which extends from the extensor retinaculum both proximally and distally. So now here we can see in the diagram that the extensor tendons are surrounded by the synovial sheath. These are the synovial sheath which extends proximally and distally from the extensor retinaculum.